Hello, my name is Jim Stallings, and I'm the Program Director of the University of Texas Dallas Chess Program. And we're here tonight to talk about honoring the Chess Educator of the Year. His name is Mr. Jerry Nash. And Jerry is a consultant, the national consultant, in fact, from the U.S. Chess Federation. And Jerry has a presentation he'll go through, and at the end we'll be giving him the award. So, without much more ado, Jerry Nash.
Well, it is a pleasure to be here with you today, and I'm going to ask you if you guys would move this direction just a little bit, and that way, hopefully that will work. I want to say thank you to Jim Stallings and Louis Salinas and Roddy and the other folks here at UT Dallas for not only for this award. I'm pleased to receive that. I'm honored, but I also want to say how appreciative I am of UT Dallas for their contributions, not just to collegiate chess, which has been long-term and enormous, but also to their help in developing of scholastic chess across the country. Former scholastic director, I would get asked this question at many of the tournaments, are there any scholarships for chess out there for students? Because, you know, parents are looking for the end game. Even if they don't know anything about chess, they know that, hey, beyond, you know, they know what's there for football and basketball, but what about this chess thing? Is there anything out there? So UT Dallas has been one of the key universities that has helped give chess legitimacy even within the education community. So I want to say thank you on behalf of a lot of folks that are not necessarily connected with UT Dallas, but I want to say thank you again. My passion for chess and education really began probably around 1996. And I remember that because I was sitting at home that summer in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and received a phone call from someone at the school board. And they said, we've gotten a small grant to start a chess program, but we don't know anything about chess. And we got your name. There are two of you, and this was an area of about 100,000 people. There were two members of the U.S. Chess Federation. And so I knew the other guy because it's a fairly small community, so we knew each other. And so they asked us to start the chess program, and we did. And it was a lot of fun. We were both volunteers, but a couple of things that I noticed about 6 months into it, at that time I was a college campus minister. So I worked with university students and worked with them a lot in the area of decision making. And about 6 months I'm coaching 4th and 5th graders, and it finally dawned on me as I'm observing that they can outthink most of my university students because I'm watching them make some really critical life decisions, and you would be stunned if I shared with you some of their explanations of how they reached those decisions, although maybe not. Since you work at a university, you've probably heard some of those same stories. But I'm watching my 4th and 5th graders, and I'm thinking they already know how to think in advance and think in multiple options. The other thing that I noticed at that time was something that was confirmed several years later when I came to the U.S. Chess Federation as the scholastic director, was that most scholastic chess programs are one person away from extinction. Because we had, even in Lake Charles, there was a wonderful program, had 60 to 80 students every year involved. That teacher moved to another school. That program died, never came back, and at the new school, she had other responsibilities and couldn't start it there, so we lost an entire program that probably to this day didn't come back. And when I reached the national level, I began to hear those same stories all over the country that someone had come in, now they were gone, either they retired, but sometimes it wasn't the person that was teaching, sometimes it was a new administrator, and we're not going to do that chess thing anymore. And so in a day, that whole chess program is gone. So one person away from extinction. And I would say, rough estimate, between 80 and 90% of all of our scholastic chess programs in the country are one person away from extinction. Well, how do you change that? Well, one way, and this comes back to the aspect of chess in education, is that if you're going to embed chess in education, you have to get the education community to invest in chess. And part of that has to do with bringing professional development to teachers, to actually train them how to use chess in the classroom. So how do you do that? Well, first of all, if you're going to even get a chance to make the case for chess in education, you have to be able to speak the language. If you don't know about Common Core or state standards or lesson plans, if those words are unfamiliar to you, you're probably in the wrong room. And you should go get somebody who does know those words, because if you don't know that and you're trying to sell them on chess, you're in the wrong room. And they're going to be very polite, at least in the South they will be. They'll be very polite, and they'll say, how chess, how wonderful, thank you very much, and then go on to other business. So you need to understand, you have to be able to speak the language. You also have to understand the context in which most teachers are operating these days. There is an enormous stress in the classroom as standards are changed, as how teachers are evaluated. Those are changing, so there are enormous pressures for teachers. And so oftentimes when I'm addressing a group of teachers, they may not say this, but they're probably thinking, oh my gosh, if that guy just knew what I was dealing with in my classroom, lesson plans and standards, and now he wants me to teach a stupid board game. He has no clue. Well, I do have a clue and understand that that's a problem. So the other part of it is you have to overcome the challenges. One of the challenges is the unfamiliarity with the game. Most of the teachers that I work with doing professional development have never seen a chess set, much less played a game of chess. In fact, as I travel the country, teachers will ask me, now, what is it you do? And I tell them and they say, chess. You mean the game, chess? And I got that exact response. I mean, with the same intonation. Chess. You mean the game, chess? I got it so often. I finally asked one educator, do they hand out cards with that on it for you to memorize? Because I've got that so often. So they're not familiar with it, and they can't conceive that chess would have anything to do with what they're doing in the classroom. The other part of it is the fact that they're intimidated by the game. I was working with Tennessee Tech University. We had a grant for teachers in middle school math classes. Had 21 teachers. Out of the 21, only one had ever played a game of chess. Walked up to the first table. The teacher said, Mr. Nash, I think I'm in the wrong room. I thought maybe she was supposed to be in a different conference. What she was saying was, I don't know anything about chess. I said, well, that's okay. That's okay. She said, well, I don't think I can learn. I said, you're the perfect person. Her response was, well, if you want somebody who doesn't know anything and can't learn, you've got the perfect person. So there's this intimidation factor, especially when teachers, and they'll say this, I don't know if I can teach this because I've probably got students in my room who already know more than I do. And that's a really uncomfortable position. So if you're even going to get the chance to present and make the case for chess, you have to speak the language, understand the context where they're working, and then be able to address that intimidation and get them beyond that. Well, how do you do that? Well, you start making the case for chess. And I'll talk a little bit more about specifically addressing teachers after a little bit, but I want to talk about making the case for chess and the fact that chess engages students, chess engages teachers, and chess engages families. Now, most of us that are in the chess community, and I'm speaking here at UT Dallas, so this is a chess community as well as an education community, but you know that chess engages students. Students love to play chess. It's amazing at national scholastic tournaments where, for a lot of the games, they're going 3-4 hours. And what are those students doing in between rounds? Because there's 7 rounds over 3 days. Each game could go anywhere from 2 to 4 hours and do regularly. So what are the students doing in between rounds? They're in the hallway, sitting in the floor, playing chess. Nobody's beating them into doing that. In fact, you have to drag them away from doing that. They're engaged by this activity. They love to play. Not only, so there's a natural fit in which they love to play, but chess also provides opportunities outside the classroom. One of the things that I do at national scholastic events is I'll go to team rooms and talk to them, and I know, I'll tell them, listen, you've already played in more national scholastic events than I've ever played. In fact, but I'm just going to tell you, I never lost a national scholastic chess game. Oh, really? Yes. Well, that's because I never got to play in one. Where I grew up, I didn't even know there were such things. I didn't even learn how to play the game until around the 8th or 9th grade. And so I taught myself how to play. I tell my students that when I started playing, I was the only one I had to play against. I couldn't even win all those games. Okay? So, so you're already ahead. But then I'll talk to them, because they're at a national tournament, they think they should be winning, and they're not, because this is a really strong tournament, and they're kind of embarrassed because they're going to go back, and other kids are going to ask, and they're not going to know what to say. I said, listen, let me just tell you what happened to me. I was in St. Petersburg, Russia, and I'm playing in a chess tournament, and they're not really being all that hospitable. Okay? They're just like crushing me, okay? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to go back home. They go, oh, you got to play in the St. Petersburg Chess Club. How did you do? And I'm going to tell them, I say, ooh, you didn't play too well. And it dawned on me what I was going to say. So I tell the students, okay, so you get back home and you tell, they ask you, how did you do? And you tell them, oh, you didn't play too well, did you? Well, hang on just a minute. Last weekend, I was in Phoenix, Arizona, playing the best in the country. I don't recall seeing you there. So chess provides an opportunity well beyond the classroom. So in terms of travel, in terms of seeing what chess is about, there's this tremendous opportunity. Not only is it for, local, state, and national tournaments, but even, parents recognize what an impact chess has on their students. And they will invest the time and resources to go to international tournaments like the World Youth. And that's an expensive proposition. And for some parents, they have to work really hard raising the funds. But they do it because they recognize that this makes such an impact. So it provides an opportunity outside the classroom. Chess also engages students because it's developing life skills. Now, you see the chess clock on the screen. I've got to tell you, I was training teachers in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, about a year or so ago, and we did 4 half days of training. On the third day, I introduced the clock. So the clock's out there, they're putting the batteries in the clocks, and I'm walking around making sure everything's, and I hear this teacher saying, I can't do this, I can't do this, and I'm thinking, it's just batteries and a clock. And at one point, I thought we were going to have to call paramedics. I thought she was going to hyperventilate. And I walked over and said, is everything okay? She's pointing at the clock. She says, I can't do that. That's too much pressure. I said, well, okay, let's pause for just a minute. And I stopped the whole group. I said, okay, let's think about this. In your class, you walk in and you put the test down on their desk and you point to the clock on the wall and you say you have till the end of the period. And they say to you, oh, I can't do that. And you say, oh, don't worry about that. Turn it in at the end of the year. No, you don't say that. You say you've got till the end of the hour. And I can guarantee you that clock ticking on the wall sounds like cathedral bells to them. Guess what? You're teaching them time management, stress management, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is like a test-taking skill or something, right? So guess what? You're now experiencing what your students experience every day in your classroom. So just in terms of the life skills, and there are others mentioned, and that's just a partial list, and those that teach chess see this all the time. But for teachers who are unfamiliar with the game, do not recognize how powerfully chess can transform students so that they're gaining the skills, not just for the classroom, but to be successful in life. Another reason that chess engages students is because it accesses all students across age, gender, economic backgrounds. In what other activity could you have a third grade girl whose feet barely reach the floor, the chair, sitting across from a high school student, 6'5", 250, and crushing him? Okay? There aren't many activities and it doesn't matter whether she's in a wheelchair or not. As we have at some of our tournaments, we have students who are in a wheelchair. It doesn't matter. I played a match in Tatarstan a number of years back, and I get there and say, well, he's the handicap champion of Russia. And I'm looking, I'm thinking, there's only one person handicapped here, and it's not him, because his rating was far beyond mine. But that's the thing. Chess accesses all students. It goes across. So that's why students are engaged with it. Not only does chess engage students, but chess engages teachers. Chess teaches literacy. When I'm speaking at a literacy conference, I talk about the fact that the chessboard is a text. and you have to learn how to read it. You have the letters and the numbers and the names of the squares. That's one aspect of it. But then if you've got a two-dimensional board, a demonstration board that we often use for teaching, this is a text that's different from the three-dimensional board on which they'll be playing. So they're having to learn between two-dimension, three-dimension. Also, they're having to learn this new language, that E4, E5, knight to F3, a symbolic language with representation in the real world. That's a literacy skill. So when you're writing a game and you're recording your moves, you now have a document that is a record not just of moves on the board, but of a psychological change that you went through during that period. These are literacy skills. You also have collaborative conversations. Most chess coaches know this, that you put the problem up and you've got the students and they're all trying to solve it and you're talking to them and they're talking, oh, no, that's not right. Yes, it is. Yes, that's collaborative conversations. Those are the kinds of conversations that teachers want their students to have so that they're working together to come up with solutions. So, you've got a game that engages students, that at the very least teaches literacy, but it also teaches math. You've got the algebraic and geometric thinking, the board itself. I was in inner city New York, Buffalo, New York, a number of years back, and I'd been invited by several fourth grade math classes to come in and demonstrate what on earth chess had to do with math. And so I walk in these fourth grade classes, I put the demo board up. Most of the students never played chess, so all the pieces are off. And we talk about how many squares are on the board. Are you sure that's the number of squares that are on that board? Really? And then we talk about, okay, so each square has a name. First name starts with a letter. Last name is a number. So we go through. So here's a star. Do I have a volunteer? Yes. Okay, so put this star on the square C6. Oh, did they get it right? Yes. All right. Yay. Very good. And then, okay, I need another volunteer. Put this star on the square G6. Oh, then they get it right. So I just turned to the teacher and I said, so how long does it take you to teach basic graphing skills? In almost every class, they said, at least 2 or 3 weeks. I said, do you realize that I just did that in less than 5 minutes? By the time I walked out of that classroom, the teacher said, now where can I get one of those demo boards? Now they still didn't know how to play chess, but they saw how engaged, because the students were out of their chairs. Some of them were standing up. They're leaning forward. They're trying to solve this. They're engaged. And they've just learned graphing skills that they've been beating their heads against the wall trying to teach them. So they saw the value in this. So chess teaches math. Chess also teaches critical thinking. For example, metacognitive reflection. Why did you make that move? Now, I know that teachers often say, they're not talking about a chessboard, why did you do that? And the typical response is, I don't know. Well, in chess, when we talk about why did you make that move, that's a concrete thing. What were you thinking about when you made that? And we're not fussing, we're helping them to learn how to think about their thinking, because that's what metacognitive reflection is. It's thinking about how you think. And in some cases, to become a better player, you must change how you think. And so that's part of what chess is doing. Not only we're teaching them how to, think, but we're also giving them confidence in reasoning. And I'm sure if you've taught chess at all, you've done this a million times. They come up to the board and they make this, and it's right. But you say, are you sure, class? And immediately hands, that's not right, Mr. Nash, that's not right. Now, they don't know what the answer is, but they've heard your tone of voice. And so that answer must not be right, because they heard your tone of voice. So part of what we're doing in teaching, as we teach chess, we have the ability to use this game to teach confidence in reasoning. Because that student, at the end of the day, I want them to be confident enough to come up and show Mr. Nash, if he's so ignorant in chess that he doesn't realize that this is right, I'm going to explain it to him. And that's precisely what they do. They explain why their answer is correct. That's a presentation skill that teachers are trying to get their students to learn. And of course, chess teaches students how to generate and assess solutions. So they're doing all of this in a game that they love to play. So we're teaching fundamental critical thinking skills. And these aren't all the critical thinking skills, but this is a short presentation, maybe longer than what you hoped, but it's still going to be, but it's far less than what it actually does. I'm just sort of skimming the top, telling you this is what chess does. Now, I'll be honest, in most of the education presentations, I get between 20 and 45 minutes to make the case for chess. So to do it in 20 minutes is tough. I'm talking a lot faster than what I am now. But 45 minutes, I can barely get it in there. But one of the other things that chess teaches as part of critical thinking skills is perseverance and sustained focus. I never will forget, I was teaching at my wife's school, and she was teaching kindergarten at the time. So, she's the chess club sponsor, which means her husband, me, is the chess club person. And so I'm in there teaching chess. Well, Albert had to stay after class. And Albert had to stay after class on lots of days. Because on a really, really good day, Albert's, his ability to focus, he had about a minute and a half worth of focus. And so he's after school getting work done that he should have been doing during the day, but he kept looking over at the chess kids. And so Miss Ruth says, well, Albert, would you like to go play? Well, you got to get your work done. Best work he'd done. Gets it in there. Now he's over at the board, and he is a picture of concentration. And he's staring 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So my wife goes out the door, down the hallway, because all the teachers on first floor know when Albert's minute and a half worth of focus is up, okay, during the day. And so they're coming to the door, and the door's got the window in there, and looking, I can see their... How can that be? I can see their faces. They're in shock. How can Albert be sitting, there's nobody standing over him with weapons or anything. He's just there. But he's so engaged, and so he's gaining perseverance and sustained focus. And that's what our students are gaining. So chess engages students, it engages teachers when they realize the power of this game to reach their students and what it can teach, what they can use it to teach. But chess engages families. I mean, you see these parents at the far end. Some of these parents are looking and they can't even see their child. The room is so large. And they're at the far end, and even if they could see the board, they wouldn't know what was going on because they don't know how to play chess. But they're there supporting because they've seen what it's doing in their child's life. But we all know, if you've been involved in chess for any length of time, you've seen parents who become the advocates for your program at school. No, you will not cut the chess program. My child wants chess. Or, why doesn't our school have a chess program? We ought to have a chess program. Well, okay, I'll help start it. And they jump in there. So they become program volunteers. Often, they become tournament directors. And some of them never played in a tournament, but they know how to help in a tournament. So they become assistant tournament directors. Some of them even become chess coaches. They learn how to play chess while their child is learning how to play. And several years down the road now, they're helping other children. And then the parents and grandparents are also links to community support for the program to continue. So, chess does that. The fact, though, that chess engages families is important because if students are engaged in extracurricular activities and their families become involved, those are factors that impact graduation rates. And if you get the family involved, and if you went to our national tournaments or the state tournaments, you would see an enormous number of moms and dads and grandparents who are all out in the hallway, and they're right there, and they're glad when they win, and they're supportive when they lose, and they have no idea how to help them. That's why we got the chess coach over there. But they're there, and they're involved. That increases the likelihood that those students will graduate. So how do you offer chess to educators? Well, first of all, you have to open the doors. You have to be at the place where educators gather. That's why I try to be at literacy conferences, math conferences. I spoke at a health and PE conference in Louisiana this past fall. You are at the conferences, you're presenting how does chess connect to this? How does chess connect to literacy, to math, to Common Core, to health and PE? How does it connect? And in those presentations, you open the door the possibility. Chess? You mean the game? Chess? It does that? I'd never even thought about that. Well, then what would we need to do next? Well, I'm glad you asked, because what you would need is you would need to offer training. Well, I don't know about that. Well, that's where I work with you. So let's find the decision makers. How do we get professional development? So then you offer the training so that the educators then become competent to be able to walk into the classroom and then start teaching their students. Now, are they going to be coaching grandmasters? No, that's not their job. That's not their passion. But what they see is the ability to take this game, and in bringing those skills to the students, they are giving this host of skills that they've been trying to teach, and they're doing it faster with longer retention. And so now you've got the training that's being offered, and you want the training to be paid for, at least in part, having something offered by the school system. Because what they do not invest in, they do not believe in. So you want the investment, at the very bare minimum, you want them to receive the continuing education units, or whatever a school district calls them, professional learning credits, whatever it is, you want them to receive that for the time that they've invested. Even if everything else is paid for by a grant or something else, you want them to receive that. You want an investment from the school system. They have to believe that this is important. And then you need to connect the communities. And this is where you go beyond, because if you're just doing professional development, and I'll tell you, I was sharing with Jim earlier today the fact that I was in Baton Rouge a couple of years ago, and when I first went, they had nothing. There was no scholastic activity other than there were a couple of schools where a handful of students met before class started, and because the teacher said, hey, I'll be here early. If you've got a question about chess, I'll try to answer it, but here, you can just gather. So there were a couple of schools where that was going on. Maybe a private school where, a few students were playing chess. So we did the professional development. It's a long story how we got that, but it's typical of how you can get that into a system where they've never had it before. And part of it came from opening the doors and being there and doing presentations similar to what I'm doing now. But we did the professional development. In less than a year, the school system reported over 700 students actively playing chess in those schools. So from almost 0 to 700 in less than a year. Well, it doesn't take, I'm not that great at math, but even I can figure out that in a few years, that's a lot of students. And so the more that you grow, then the more the students want, and then now you need tournaments and you need coaches and all these kinds of things. But at the same time, the teachers began to report about the changes that they saw in their students. At Tennessee Tech University, we did the training in the summer. We went back in the fall for a family day, taught the parents how to play chess and grandparents, and then the university interviewed them. After the interviews, the professors came out and said, Jerry, you've got to listen to this. Some of these family members were weeping, talking about the changes they had seen in their students because of chess. Well, that's the thing. When you see chess engaging students, and when you see chess engaging teachers that on the first day said, I don't think I can do this, and on the second day, you couldn't get them away from the demonstration boards to solving problems to go eat lunch. They're engaged. When you can engage teachers, and when you can engage families, then you can make the case for chess. When I got that phone call from the school board, I got a call shortly after from T.S. Cooley Magnet School. It's where my daughter's attending. Now, this was a magnet school where you literally had to spend the night outside the front door in order to be first in line to get your child in. And that's how we got our first daughter into that magnet school. I spent the night in a lawn chair, so I was out there. It was cold, but we got her in. So, but all that to say that here was a school with high expectations, high standards. So that first year I come in and they say, well, what grade should we start with? I said, well, we could start with second grade. Oh, no, that's much too young. I said, well, it's your school, you tell me. And it was a K through 5 school. So they said, well, let's start with 4th and 5th grade. So we did. 4th and 5th grade, went through that next spring. was 1997, and it was the first Super Nationals in Knoxville, Tennessee. So several of the schools got together. We rented a bus. We took four of our fifth graders. Why were they the best players? Not necessarily because they were fifth graders, and they wouldn't be there that next year. So we're taking fifth graders. So we walk in, and the parents are escorting their students to the boards, and they're walking past row after row, hundreds and hundreds of kindergartners and first graders and second graders who are playing an hour and 2 hours and 3 hours for a single game. And my parents walked out and said, Mr. Nash, if you had told us that that was possible, we would not have believed you. So we get through. Next fall, I come back to school. Guys, are you ready? Yeah. Mr. Nash, we've been thinking, what do you think about starting in second grade this year? Oh, that sounds like a good idea. Chess had so transformed what even a magnet school thought was possible for their students to accomplish. Chess really does engage students. It engages teachers when they discover the power of the game. And it engages families when they see the transformation that happens in their students. It changes lives. That's why I have the passion to bring chess to educators. And that's why I'm so passionate about the fact that we have to keep making the case for chess. So, thank you very much for this award. I'll keep plugging away. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jerry. Really appreciate having you here today. And now presenting the award for Chess Educator of the Year for 2015 will be Dr. Abby Kratz.
Jerry, I just want to thank you for a very engaging talk. I have to say that we didn't need a lot of reinforcement of the metacognition that we have about why you were invited this year to be honored with this award for Chess Educator of the Year. But your talk certainly moved us all into an affirmation of our commitment to scholastic chess, like yours, but not as actively engaged as yours. I think it was inspiring, and the work that you do is so important in helping educators understand the importance of chess for the children, for the schools, for the accomplishments of the school district. Everything that we honor in chess, I think you embody. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure to
I appreciate that.
pass this award on to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. And like I said, I'll keep plugging away. So thank you, UT Dallas. Thank you, Dr. Kratz and Jim, Roddy, Lewis. Thank you. Appreciate it.